I'll go back to the siting of the Trojan plant, which has now been torn down. But when it was sited back a couple of sessions before I got there, the legislator said, well, we're not comfortable about siting this plant without more procedure, but we'll go ahead and just cite this one, but then we'll set up something called the Energy Facility Siting Council, and future generating facilities will have to go through a process with setting standards and so on. Well, then when PGE wanted to build Pebble Springs, they tried to jam it through, and the Siting Council acquiesced, and then Lloyd Marbett sued, and the Supreme Court said, no, you didn't apply your standards and procedures that you said the Siting Council was supposed to abide. So when we got to legislature, PGE had a measure to just cite the plant, period. Well, I spent the whole session, my first session there, a great deal of my time and energy lobbying against that. And what I learned was that if you go to a legislator and sit down with them, preferably in their office, and talk and bring forth facts, it makes it hard for them if you've got a lot of facts, which we did. Makes it hard for them just to do whatever the business like PGE wants. Although they had the upper hand, I kept plugging along. Well, finally, make a long story short, and it is a long story, it came to the floor of the Senate, and I had been able to round up, by one vote, a vote to defeat the bill that would have just cited the plant. There was another struggle going on. They were trying to get people onto the Siting Council who were in control of PGE, and we fought them successfully, but only after a lot of furor. Well, so I had seen Jason Bowe being interviewed on the TV network Inside the Capitol one day, and he was telling the reporters that was going to be his main goal from then on until the end of the session, to get that passed, to get Pebble Springs cited. And I went around and intensified my lobbying efforts. And finally, when it came to the floor, they didn't have enough votes. Well, right about that same time, I told a newspaper reporter what I'd seen Jason Bowe say in that closed circuit interview with some reporters. And apparently they covered something about that. I didn't ever see it, but I was out on the floor a day or two later, and all of a sudden, Jason Bowe came down off the podium, where he was always up there with the gavel running things with an iron fist, and I didn't think too much about it. I thought maybe he had a dentist appointment or something. But the next thing I know, he comes up and taps me on the shoulder. I was looking up at the podium, so I was pretty surprised. And he says, "Come to the back of the chamber. I'm going to whip your ass, you son of a bitch." And I'm like, wow. And it flashed through my mind, well, I ought to go back there and have a fist fight with him, because if I landed a lucky punch, I'd be David and Goliath. But if he knocked me down, he would be the bully, because he was about 6 feet tall and built like a guard on a football team. So, but I didn't go back. I just stood there by my desk and waited a minute, and his absolute temper tantrum settled down enough that he went away. And, well, then I talked to his aide, his principal aide, named Deerdorf, and he said, "Yeah, well, Jason has heard that you told a reporter that he'd said that this was going to be his big goal the rest of the legislative session." I said, "Yeah, I did. That was a direct quote. I saw him say it." And there was never anything uh, more about that. He was just angry with me, but I was pretty happy. That was one day that I prevailed over him, and he was a real bully, and so it felt really good.